Hi, as a business, as a sales professional, you know you need to be a valued partner, a trusted consultant to your customers and clients. You know that you need to occasionally go in confidently into the C-suite and have meaningful business conversations with executives about the right topics. But you're not quite sure how to get those skills, how to get that background so that you can have those meaningful business conversations, so that you can provide a valued perspective to your customers. That's what we're talking about here in this course, Customer and Business Acumen. I'm Mark Boundy. I'm the founder of Value Clarity, and we're going to be referring to this diagram throughout the entire course, where we're going to be talking about customer business acumen. I'll give you more detail on this in a little bit, but right now I want to tell you why the world is different and why you need this course. When you first started in sales, you may have thought, or somebody may have told you, that all you had to do was get a few leads, go out, meet the customer, discover some needs, make sure that they know, like, and trust you, then you sell your solution and you're going to be able to make sales. Well, customers don't respond to this anymore. So here's what's happening at the customer. You see, in 2018, CSO Insights, the preeminent sales research house in the world, developed something they called the Apathy Loop. I've adapted that by combining it with what their work, as well as other research from other houses, to develop this Mediocrity Cycle. And here's how it works. You see, salespeople meet expectations, but don't exceed them. That is, when the customer asks a question, they get it. The salespeople will make sure that that question gets answered. Salespeople are responsive to the entire RFP, and so they meet expectations, but they don't go beyond. They don't provide any additional perspective. They don't provide any additional value to the decision. As a result, customers really don't prefer talking to salespeople. It's much more time efficient to go just about anywhere other than salespeople. As a matter of fact, the CSO Insights researched 9 different information sources: friends, colleagues, consultants, trade shows, internet, and salespeople ranked 8th out of 9. There's 7 places your customers would rather go than to your salespeople. As a result, no surprise, they self-inform. They develop their own image of success, their own image of what kind of outcomes they're looking for by themselves, without your salespeople or you, if you're the salesperson. And so they self-inform, and as we all know, they may underinform, they may misinform, they may use your competitors' information, even worse. We've all heard the research that says 56% of the customer buying process happens before they engage salespeople. Well, that's what's happening here. Because they don't like to use information from salespeople, they self-inform. Then when salespeople are engaged, they're these unimpressive people. So I'm going to send an RFP out to the salespeople respond to it, they make a proposal. None of them go beyond the proposal. They respond directly to that proposals. And now I've got customers, I've got clients who say, I have 3 different proposals on my desk with 3 different logos on the front, but when I open them up, they're the exact same proposal. I can't tell them apart. Well, that's because the salespeople are responding to a self-informed, underinformed customer concept of what they want to accomplish. And now the customer can't tell any of them apart. And so what happens is, now nobody's differentiated, so that the only thing to do is find out which one of those identical proposals is more desperate to buy the business using a discount, because there's really no difference in the product. And the cycle continues. So what do you have to do to break out of this cycle? So this is how the art of selling has to change. Instead of this old-fashioned diagram, which was get a lead, discover need, sell solutions, the mediocrity cycle has required us to change the way we sell. And that is like this. When you get that lead, you need to meet with the customer, but understand their world at least as well as they do. This isn't about knowing, liking, and trusting you. This is about you're having credibility, you're having some expertise, you're having the business knowledge of their business, so that when you provide insight, you provide perspective, you challenge their idea, you challenge their self-diagnosis, you challenge the research they did on their own with educated, valid inputs and insights that they find credible, then you can not just sell the solution, but you need to sell a different set of outcomes. This is how sales has to change. So understanding that customer's world is where we're going to be going throughout this course. And that means understanding the external forces that shape that customer's business, doing some research into the internal forces that make them who they are, and then coming up with a list of available outcomes that they didn't anticipate for themselves. This is the new necessity, providing value. When you do this, you are the value. In excess of 50% of lost deals were because of the salesperson's selling behavior. When you're able to understand the customer's world, the external forces that shape them, the internal forces that shape them, come up with some innovative outcomes that challenge their opinions and challenge their research and challenge their preconceptions, you're able to sell outcomes and become much more successful. And that's the core of it. It's all about outcome-focused sellings. Because remember, as one of my early mentors, Bob Miller, used to say, customers don't buy products, your services, your capabilities. What they buy is their own outcomes. They buy their own outcomes for their own reasons. As I was discussing this with Bob Miller one time before he died a few years back, he was really pleased that I added this. What they are willing to pay is based on the perceived desirability or the value of those expected outcomes, which makes the job of the sales professional the job of co-creating perceived value within the mind of each customer. This simultaneously does a couple things that they didn't teach you about in econ course. It helps you achieve more sales, more frequently, at higher preference, and at a higher price. That's not what econ teaches you, but that's what reality is. So when we're talking about outcomes, let's break the different types of outcomes that you could discuss with a customer. There are negative outcomes in your initial sales training. You probably heard about negative outcomes in the terms of ask for pain points, try to discover pain. And that's a great idea. Some enlightened sales trainers say, well, in addition to looking for pain, look for gain, looking for opportunities. So those are positive. That's the bottom row. So negative are the top row, positive outcomes are the bottom row. But when you are asking your customers for their pain points, you're inadvertently operating in that left-hand column. The known negatives, the known positive. When you ask the customer for their pain points, they're only going to tell you the ones they realize. And those are the ones that happen at the result of that mediocrity cycle. When they self-informed and then they engaged with salespeople and the salespeople said, tell me your pain points and your gain points, that's all where you're operating. And what's happening there is every salesperson is uncovering the exact same set of known pains. And that's why all three of my bids were the same bid. And you're doing something that I call fist fighting in the phone booth. A phone booth is an old device that people like me remember. And a phone booth is a space that's too small for anybody to wind up and land a good punch. So when you're fist fighting in a phone booth, there's a lot of motion, but nobody's injuring anybody. And what happens is price wins. Whoever is the most desperate for a discount is who wins that sale. What you need to do to get out of that is discover the customer's world, the internal, the external forces that are shaping them, come up with a list of available outcomes that they didn't anticipate, both negative and positive, and start selling to those. This is the difference, going to that unanticipated side on the right-hand column. So that's what we're here for today, understanding the customer's world. And there are half a dozen different forces, external forces, half a dozen internal forces that you can use to get yourself a good gauge. And then we're going to talk about some executive outcomes. So this is kind of the map of the entire course of Business Acumen. We're going to talk about each one of these 6 external forces in detail, each one of these 6 internal forces in detail. So here are the forces in a nutshell. Every module in the course from here on out is going to cover one of these forces. And we're going to start with the external forces that they have less control over, that shape how that customer has to respond. What are their environmental and regulatory trends? What are their competitions, both direct competition and indirect? And are there any complementary ecosystems of products that make their product more value that they want to go into market shoulder to shoulder with? And what channels do they use? What are their customers? What revenue streams do they get from those customers? How important are each of those revenue streams? And what are the key suppliers or the key resources that they don't have control over that may shape how they go to market and shape their strategy because they have some constrained resources? Then some of the internal forces that are how they respond and make them who they are. What is their strategy? What value discipline? How do they differentiate themselves to their market? What is their value proposition? What does management see as their business risks that facing them? And what are the priorities? What do they want to do in the near term? What key processes or activities make them special to help them provide those value propositions? And of course, what is their cost structure? This is the only one where you actually have to understand the math in their financial statements. So this is very much a course for non-mathletes. So that's it in a nutshell. As you understand more of your customer's world, both the external forces that shape them, the internal forces that make them who they are, you understand your customer's business as well or better than they understand their own business, especially some of the functional experts that you often talk to. And now, instead of just responding to the self-informed set of requirements, the self-informed set of pains and gains, the self-informed set of desired outcomes and desired future state that your customer thought they had, because of your understanding of their business, your deep understanding of your solution, you're able to articulate for them additional outcomes that they didn't anticipate. And if this is something that's based on your differentiation, you're positioning yourself to offer outcomes that you are the best positioned to deliver. So as a valued consultant, as a trusted advisor, because you understand them and their world, you're able to confidently have discussions at the C-suite, talk to them about outcomes that they hadn't anticipated, and add to the value of their decision, something that they will appreciate a great deal, that breaks you out of that mediocrity loop. Look forward to going through all these modules with you together, and feel free to call me at any time if you've got any questions in the meantime. Take care. Thanks.